My dad was a Marine and a Boy Scout, and be prepared was our family motto. I'm Susie Dingle, writer, garden coach, and landscape designer, bringing you information and inspiration to help you better enjoy, utilize, and improve your outdoor space. Sometimes that means bringing things inside. In this case, we're in my kitchen today. When COVID-19 happened in 2020, we were all, as a society and the world, scrambling, trying to figure out how to survive and how to feed ourselves, what to do. Well, my husband's an acupuncturist, and he quickly set to work focusing on the health and safety aspects, and I went to work in the garden and in the kitchen. I will step you through how we grew much of our produce on a small urban lot and how we stocked our pantry. This story also includes a near disaster early on and a mystery that threatened our apple crop. My dad was a Marine and a Boy Scout, and be prepared was our family motto. We had big bins of sugar and flour, and we were always thinking about what would happen, what would we have to do should we have to pull together in an emergency situation. He never let us forget that. Well, Dad's been gone for a while, and I forgot that. So when COVID hit, I was sitting on an empty pantry. Well, because we have a farmer's market not too far from here and some nice shopping experiences. Trader Joe's is one of the stores that I would frequent. It's close and I could generally find good organic food, and a co-op not too far away. What did I need a big pantry for? I have a small house. Our office is small. Well, things were just about to change in March of 2020, and change fast. I want to go on record as saying that I am a gardener and not a food farmer. I have spent more time doing ornamental gardens that include food, more like a cottage garden, rather than a farmer who has a few ornamental plants around to help increase the beneficial insects. So, that said, I still dug in my elbows into the soil and did my best to produce what food I could. And you know, it's remarkable how much one can grow in just a very small space and what a difference it makes, especially because that food is live and it is coming to you with all those nutrients right away. In March 2020, when COVID really became known to the world generally, people were starting to take it seriously. My garden at that state was not a food garden. I have some kind of perennial food crops like blueberries and self-seeding parsley and some apples and grapes and things like that. But I do not have good room, adequate room, or adequate sun for growing enough food to feed us, the two of us even, to supply all of our needs. So I had to put on my thinking hat and get out my books and puzzle through how I was going to do this, what containers I might need, and what soil amendments. Honestly, I wasn't visualizing this phase of my life being one where I would grow my own vegetables, not with so much wonderful food we have in the Pacific Northwest. So, haha me. Just the winter before or the fall before, I had a garage sale, and I gave away and got rid of a lot of my supplies that I didn't feel that I needed anymore, and some really big plastic containers that would have been great, for growing tomatoes in and such. I said bye-bye to a lot of things, even all my little tiny 4-inch containers. Wow. Well, not having those really stretched me and stretched my imagination, and I set out to immediately find containers in which I could start some seeds. Early on, before I could get to the seeds in the garden center, I went through my box of old seeds and started to germinate those that I thought would be successful. I did a lot of testing. It was fun anyway to do that. By the way, germinating seeds is a really fun experiment to do with kids. I'll show you a few of the containers that I used, all the way from tea boxes to eggshells, and they were all pretty much successful overall, with some nuances, things I do a little bit differently, but I was happy that I at least started those seeds. These are old bok choy seeds that actually did come up and did sprout. I don't remember the year. These are lettuce seeds right here from a mesclun mix. I just pulled out the lettuce seeds. And these here are all the basils that came up. And these are actually new seeds as well, not old seeds, because I wanted to get those going. And then these pots over here, I recycled the tea containers, the cardboard outside containers, and filled in the hole with some coir fabric. These have cucumber seeds, and these are old seeds. These are from, I believe, 2015 or 16, but I pre-sprouted them on paper, and they've sprouted, so that's good. We may have lemon coops if all goes well. We'll see. The seeds may still not be viable in that they may not form properly, but fingers crossed. Planting out the little seedlings that were my test germination for my old seeds. These are flash collards. Over here, daikon radish. I'm so happy about that. And these are the Napa cabbage. Also really happy about that. I realize this is maybe not the ideal time of the year to be putting these out. I'm not quite sure. We'll see. This gets eastern exposure, so it won't be quite as hot in the summer, but we're going to give it a go. I started on with my seeds, and that was an experience in and of itself. Hence, the near disaster. This story started at about 3 a.m. when I wondered, where did I put that box of seeds? Oh yeah, I must have put them next door. Definitely I put them in that cool, dark place where my other seeds are. Oh, are you sure? Yeah, pretty sure. So I walk outside, this morning, and there's my box of seeds with a towel over it. But it was outside, and it had rained last night. This was my overall strategy. I would buy some long-lasting produce from the store, which was cabbage, beets, butternut squash, which has a lot of flesh on it, and onions. Those were the main things I bought. Also some garlic, ginger, and lemon, because those items right there would be very helpful in fortifying the immune system, and they're flavorful. I'd like to show you a couple of the products or techniques that I used specifically to help get us through the early months when there were not as many things to eat out in the garden. And we do this year round anyway. The first is it's called Amazing Grass. And this is our favorite flavor. It's sweet berry flavor. It has a bunch of stuff in it. No, my headband will not work as glasses, try as I might. Oh my gosh, it's just got lots of great stuff in it. I'll leave it up to you to read it on your own. But we have this nearly every single day, and that helped a lot. I felt like we were getting good nutrition in spite of the fact that we were not eating as many greens as we would have liked. And the second thing was this, sprouting. This happens to be clover sprouts, but I also sprouted every day alfalfa, radish, mung beans, clover, broccoli. Those were the sprouting seeds that were available in our co-op when COVID hit. So I bought a lot of those, and we've been going through them, utilizing them all the time. But this is a lid. I did not have many lids, and I wanted to do lots and lots of sprouting. So I did purchase some plastic lids that I found at my favorite garden center. By far, the very best thing I did was starting those sprouts. That took only a couple days, and we were eating some really good nutrition. And it was tasty and fun and crunchy and fresh. I also went out into my garden and foraged. Now we're talking wet, cold March, but there were some things out there. Miner's lettuce and parsley. Before long, up came the chives and the grapes, and certainly all the herbs that I had, rosemary, sage, thyme, oregano, and that was definitely wonderful. And a surprise guest in the herb department, lovage. If you have not grown lovage, it tastes like celery. This is lovage. It's an herb that grows up, it dies down during the winter in the Pacific Northwest. And these are older leaves that are a little bit tougher, but I still use them in soups and such, and it does have that celery flavor. Early on, the leaves can easily be chopped up and put in a salad. The next thing I did was find potato seed, meaning the potato itself that was intended to be put into the soil. And I ordered some straw from our garden center, and my cousin lovingly went and picked that up and brought it over to the garden. We grew several kinds of potatoes, and so far so good. We're just eating them one row at a time, and if there's an abundance, I will probably dehydrate them or freeze some perhaps. And for fun, you know, I jumped on that sourdough bandwagon, tried my hand at that. I didn't have much, but just a cup or two of whole wheat flour because my husband is gluten intolerant, sort of, and so we tend to eat grains that are lower in gluten. But I did have whole oats and whole barley and whole rye, which I ground up in our Vitamix. And that gave me flour, and I was able to produce something edible, let's just say that. And I did have a few really good successes with that I would do again. Lentil goo fermented, rice fermented. This, I just tasted this and it's wonderfully sour. It tastes really, really good. That's really thin, so we'll add that to the lentil a little bit. And here's the lineup: a white pepper, some Italian seasoning, a little bit of spike, the kind with the salt in it, and this organic toasted sunflower oil, which I hope you can still get from Trader Joe's. And then at the end we'll sprinkle hemp hearts on top. And it tastes for all the world like Parmesan cheese. The edges are starting to get crispy, and the center is still soft and doughy. So in they go. They are thin and crispy. Yummy. Oh yeah. Very, very tasty too. Imagine it's windy and cold and rainy, and before anything would really get going in the ground, it's best to put things under cover. I have no greenhouse anymore. Used to have a beautiful one, but I don't anymore. I did have a shower curtain and some garden furniture and some blocks. So there you go. I created a little makeshift greenhouse. Early on, the first things I planted in pots and in the ground in some cases were peas and beets for the beet greens, spinach, the mesclun mix of mustards and some lettuces, and radishes. I didn't have actually fresh radish seeds, so I tried growing from the sprouting seeds that I had, growing some radish. Turns out those were a daikon style radish, that the root was okay, and I got some of that, but I grew them primarily for just the greens, which are edible and they grow super duper fast, so I highly recommend that. And I also grew some arugula, as that came up pretty darn fast. When it was time for the warmer vegetables, I did order for curbside pickup some tomatoes and zucchini. Now, we don't have a ton of sun, so I had to be strategic there, and we were somewhat successful, enough so that we were able to have zucchini when we wanted it and an abundance of tomatoes. When it came time to put seeds in the ground, I did try some carrots, and I don't generally grow carrots. They're a little bit difficult to get started. They're slow to start. But we did some of that, and I'm happy I did. Also, I planted nasturtium and basil and beans. Now, these beans, I wouldn't have normally grown them because we're not huge bean eaters, but these beans came from my cousin. They're cupidons, and they're very special to me because she had raised them and propagated them, and she keeps that, or had kept that going. I could have harvested grape leaves. I didn't get a chance to do that. I intended to, but I didn't. We were starting to see a lot of other greens coming in by that time, but that certainly is a fun thing to do if you have a grapevine. On the heels of that, we were starting to harvest our strawberries and our blueberries. The strawberries are just out there as ground cover, from little small woodland ones up to the larger berries. I did take some of the strawberries, the larger ones, and transplanted them into containers to get them up off the ground, away from any strawberry loving slugs, and that was helpful. I put them in my window boxes. When we did go out and do our first shopping trip 3.5 months after COVID started, I didn't get as much fresh produce as I thought I would have. I replenished a few things and got some USA grown red pepper, which I like to do in the summer. We got avocados. That's a wonderful treat. And some fresh bags of, or bunches rather, of lettuce and spinach, just so we could have a larger salad or two. Our spinach and our lettuce kind of went in waves. Honestly, I think we went shopping for chocolate. That was the other food was just a cover for the chocolate. We're now in the late summer and looking forward to the harvesting of the potatoes and the carrots that took 90 days, and some of the greens that are really coming along now nicely because the weather is cooling down. And now that things are cooling down, we are looking forward to that second growing of peas, the sugar snap peas. I hope I got them in there soon enough. So far, so good. I am pleased with the success, but we're only 2 people, and it's much easier to feed 2 people than it is certainly a large family. I hope you have the space you need, or at least friends who can help supplement you with good, nutritional, fresh food. There's nothing like it. After a few months, our health really significantly improved, and we felt more energetic and invigorated from all the fresh enzymes and the vitamins that were being supplied from this homegrown food. With winter right around the bend, I'm thinking about planting kale and more chard, and also tending the radicchio. That it's called Sugarloaf, this special variety, which I really love. It's very crunchy and more like a head of something between a cabbage and a romaine lettuce, something like that. I will be out there in the garden looking for the first signs of minor lettuce and harvesting the parsley that will be there all winter long. I certainly will be sprouting like a sprouting crazy lady, and we will be again eating this amazing grass. We have had this for years and years and years. Not this particular container, but you know what I mean. This one's sweet berry flavor. I love it. That has been really helpful to give us some extra nutrition when the greens, the actual fresh greens, are not as plentiful. I'll also be stocking up again on those long-lasting winter vegetables like the beets and cabbage and the things I mentioned earlier on. And COVID or not, I intend to keep up this system of eating even after the virus is in our rear view mirror. I really hope this video was helpful, or at least entertaining. And
first, I saw this funny spot in our field of poppies. I entered the vegetable patch last night before it was too terribly dark and noticed something that I hadn't put there. No, I don't remember leaving that black blob. on the ground to look around and see what happened here. Old nibbles on the pea vines, the snap peas, but there were only 3, and the new vines seemed just fine. They're even beginning to flower. Have you guessed yet? Should we go out on a limb, or do we need to look a little bit more at some clues? There's a little hole there with a little raised area there. Maybe some of you already know what could have caused that. Right next to that little depression in the ground is this opening that leads to the garden. I wonder if that's a large enough opening to allow something to come into the garden and eat the apple trees. If the culprit did come in this way, it did a pretty good job of not damaging too many other plants. On the other side of this entrance is another apple tree, and it too has some munched leaves.
I'm pretty sure that most of you have a COVID garden story or food story that maybe you'd like to share. So please do feel free to do that in the comments. I think the other viewers would enjoy it. I know I would enjoy reading your story. If you're interested in seeing some of the meals that we prepared during these last few months, please do look for that video as well. Yummy, yummy. Okay, this is the first big harvest of the lettuce, like big bowls. And some golden beets, quinoa, radish sprouts, tuna, and olives, hemp hearts. Very simple, but ooh, so yummy. Thank you so much. Your support is very much appreciated. Until next time, I'll be dreaming of you in the garden. Bye-bye.